Whataboutism and deflection are tactics designed to avoid accountability by shifting attention away from the issue at hand. Instead of addressing criticism or engaging with evidence, the person redirects the conversation to other topics, often involving alleged hypocrisy or wrongdoing by their critics. What about when your side did X? Is the classic whataboutism response that treats political or social disagreements like team sports. Instead of addressing whether a particular action or policy is right or wrong, they point to similar behaviour by people they assume you support. This deflects from the specific issue whilst implying that criticism is invalid because of alleged hypocrisy. This tactic is particularly problematic because it assumes you're responsible for or must defend everything done by people who share some of your political views. It also suggests that wrongdoing becomes acceptable if you can find examples of similar behaviour by others. Bringing up unrelated past events serves a similar function by changing the subject from current issues to historical grievances or mistakes. Someone might respond to criticism of current policy by saying, "What about what happened 20 years ago under a different government?" This historical deflection avoids engaging with present concerns. Changing the subject when pressed on specifics happens when someone makes broad claims but then shifts to different topics when asked for evidence or details. They might make sweeping statements about policy failures, but when asked for specific examples or data, they suddenly want to discuss something entirely different. Claiming both sides are equally bad is a form of deflection that avoids taking responsibility for specific problems by suggesting that everyone is equally at fault. This false equivalence prevents addressing particular issues by claiming that criticism is pointless because everyone does it. Demanding you answer for others' actions puts you in the position of defending or explaining behaviour by people you may not even support. Someone might ask, how do you justify what that activist, politician or commentator said, when you've never endorsed that person or statement? Staying focused on the actual issues requires recognizing deflection tactics and redirecting them without getting drawn into unproductive tangents. Acknowledge their point briefly without getting sidetracked by saying something like, "That's also a concern worth discussing, but right now we're talking about," and this shows you've heard them without abandoning the original topic. Return to the original issue with clear language that maintains focus. That's a separate concern. On this issue, what's your view of? Or we can address that separately, but first I'd like to understand your position on. Set boundaries about the scope of the conversation when someone keeps deflecting. We can discuss historical examples another time, but I'm interested in your thoughts about this current situation. This maintains focus whilst acknowledging that their concerns might be legitimate topics for separate discussions. Don't accept responsibility for others' actions that you haven't endorsed or supported. You can say, "I don't defend that behaviour and I'm not responsible for what other people do. Can we discuss the issue itself?" Recognize when someone is avoiding accountability by consistently deflecting rather than engaging with the issues. If every attempt to discuss specifics results in redirection to other topics, that tells you something important about their willingness to engage constructively. So the goal isn't to ignore legitimate concerns about consistency or historical context, but rather maintain productive focus on the issues you're actually trying to discuss. Deflection tactics often work by exploiting your desire to be fair and comprehensive. but you can acknowledge other concerns while still insisting on substantive engagement with the topic at hand.